Goodness gracious, Grenada. And a very good morning to you, my dear friends. Welcome to the Monday edition of Good Day Grenada. Thank you very much for joining us. I certainly hope you folks had a wonderful weekend and you're now recharged and reinvigorated, ready to take on a brand new week here on the Spice Isle. Quick glance here. Hazel is up first again this morning, followed by Ernesto. Pilgrims, what a wonderful weekend, eh? Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful weather. And this morning, no exception, man. The sun is just blazing down here on us. We are truly, truly blessed. Got an awful lot to be thankful for. Rachel John saying good morning to you guys, and so is Chester Simon and Bernard Gilbert. They're slowly coming into the class, but it's what? We've only been gone 1 minute now, so been going 1 minute. So they're not late. They're not late. Nice to see you guys waiting on the rest of the gang to show up. Well, in the meantime, I think we need to take a look at what sort of mischief we're going to get into this morning. Interesting morning, interesting morning. We're going to begin. I just want to mention this to you. For those of you who have been following the Sundays with George Grant program every Sunday morning, 9 o'clock. For those of you who have been following that for the last 15 years or so, you're probably very much aware that every Sunday morning we used to read a whole lot of editorials, 4 editorials, sometimes 5. Well. In the last year or so, we've only been reading 2, the Grenada Advocate and the New Today. For some reason, the Grenadian Voice just stopped sending their editorials. And last week, I got really pumped up when I received one from the Grenadian Voice. I thought, wow, they're back. And I was looking forward to sharing that with you yesterday morning. However, for those of you who were with us yesterday, you know that we had a heck of a lot going on here, and as a result, we had to sort of shuffle the lineup. We didn't do any editorials yesterday, none whatsoever. However, as a welcome to the welcome back to the Grenadian Voice, I thought I'd share their editorial with you this morning. So we're going to do that this morning. It is captioned, "Don't go there without spices." Okay? Interesting piece. Yes, we do have the national report for you. And in addition to that, Monday morning means the ladies are going to be here. Actually, this morning I'm expecting 4 ladies. Usually it's just the Bain sisters, 3 of them, Laurel, Janice, and Gemma. Well, this morning they're going to be bringing along somebody with them by the name of Juliet Melville. She's a development economist. So we're going to be taking a look at our fiscal development. And it's something you guys have really warmly received over the past few weeks. So I am looking forward to this morning's edition. And we'll get to that somewhere between 9:30 and 9:35 this morning. All right? Now, just back here now to social media for a wee bit. Let's see. Hazel, Ernesto, Rachel, Chester, Bernard, Margaret is there. I love those sunglasses, Max. Manu Sarth Alexander is saying good morning. Oriel Carter is saying good morning. John Nosyneck from Dependency Number 1. Kipling Francis is there as always, and Fitzroy Adams. Arthur Langine is also there this morning. Penny Crowley is chiming in. Hey, please send some warm weather here as it is minus 5 degrees Fahrenheit here this morning. That's in northern Quebec. I feel sorry for you, girl. I feel sorry for you. But, well, it's that time of the year. So just get used to it. Let me see. Arthur Langine is saying good morning. He says, very nice show yesterday. Thank you, Arthur. You guys make it possible. Anthea is saying good morning. Peter Bishop, Grenada Sunshine. And do me a favor. Try and find some time to read something that I posted just a few moments ago. I think you really need to read that. This is a response that I got from yesterday's program. And I thought it was so well written that I had to share it with you this morning. You know, Georgie Porgy doesn't really hide anything. He loves to share. Read that, okay? Now, let's get into that editorial that I told you about from the Grenadian Voice. An interesting and potentially disturbing bit of news broke recently in connection with the largest single shipment of livestock to Grenada from St. Vincent and the Grenadines as part of the intra-regional trade within the member states of the OECS. While this caught the attention of many people, sadly enough, people and our leaders missed the bottom line of this proposed trade arrangement. Simply said, Grenada may be planning to give away our spice plants in exchange for dasheen plants. Huh? The shipment of 100 heads of cattle and 400 pigs could very well be a smokescreen designed to cover what will end up being a huge blunder and clear evidence that this trade proposal will have dire consequences. Our spices are our patrimony. They must not be sold. This export, valued at $500,000, will be the largest single shipment of animals to be exported to Grenada in our nation's history. However, isn't that the nature of the business embarked on for quite some time now by the man who owns the cow pen? This newspaper has learned that this year he has teamed up with other local businessmen to purchase the huge shipment, by Grenada standards, of cattle from St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And from all appearances, it seems to be a legitimate venture. A few questions arise. What breed of cattle are coming to Grenada? For what purpose? Will the entire herd be slaughtered for human consumption? What is the state of the health of the herd? We do hope that the Ministry of Agriculture, through the Veterinary and Livestock Division responsible for granting permits for the importation of livestock and meat, proper quarantine and livestock that are brought into our country. Let me read that again. That just didn't sound very right. We do hope that the Livestock Division responsible for granting permits for the importation of livestock and meat products into Grenada continue to provide proper quarantine for livestock that are brought into our country so as to prevent diseases, pests, and parasites from entering. We have heard reports that Dominica received significant outside help after being ravaged by a hurricane and is now grappling with the intrusion of all kinds of new insects, which some people attribute to careless handling of livestock and planting material that came in as assistance during the time of their crisis. there is news that the Minister of Agriculture in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Honorable Saboto Caesar, outlined plans for his country to further deepen regional trade relationships. He explained that this is good for the region and that the focus for 2020 to 2025 is to include as many OECS member states on this established agri-export intra-regional trading platform, as well as embrace the importation of goods produced in other OECS member states that have particular production advantages. Certainly, our spices have particular production advantages. Is that why the Ministry of Agriculture in St. Vincent and the Grenadines is coveting them? The ministry expects to obtain help from the government of Grenada before year end regarding planting material for spices. Please, stop and reconsider this disastrous route for Grenada's spice heritage. Does our government want that as part of its legacy? This is where the situation becomes worrying. Pure Grenada, the Isle of Spice, did not get that name by accident. We have heard a lot of stories about the special flavor of our spices, which has Grenada standing tall above the rest. The proof is in the tasting and in the kitchens of homemakers and chefs and those who thrive on local cook-ups throughout the parishes of pure Grenada. The test is in the laboratories and product testing facilities that demonstrate the value of our spices. Should we simply give that away for a few dasheen plants? Then again, if St. Vincent or any other island has plants for sale, why can't Grenada purchase them with cash or trade something else, but not our agriculture and culinary heritage? December, the month earmarked for the transaction, is just around the corner. We do hope that a decision has not yet been made and that good thinking people will brainstorm and come up with some trade proposals and purchasing agreements that serve to protect our spice plants from leaving our shores. Let's trade in other things. The ministry must reassure us that our patrimony will be protected and that our spice secrets will be kept close to our chests. In Grenada, the ministry acknowledged that the Memorandum of Understanding between the governments of Grenada and St. Vincent and the Grenadines provides for the trade between both countries in livestock and agricultural commodities in a bid to enhance trade in commodities originating in member states of the OECS. In relation to concerns by local livestock farmers, the ministry said that in keeping with the provisions of the MOU, the Ministry of Agriculture will not seek to restrict trade, but it has an obligation to protect local farmers and ensure that food safety requirements are met in accordance with the regulations governing the importation of animals. All of that sounds good because we need the food, especially for the festive season. But with all that talk about efforts to resuscitate the livestock sector, the Ministry of Agriculture must also promise Grenada that our spice plants will not go there. Sounds familiar? Yeah, probably. Okay, there you have it. That's the editorial which appeared in this past week's edition of the Grenada Advocate. Welcome back, Grenada Advocate. Okay, let me scroll down here. Good morning to you, Patricia Williams. Oswin Lewis saying good morning from a cold Brooklyn. Oswin, boy, bet you wish you were here. John Nozinak says, are these animals really tested for any foot and mouth, CJD, or any other animal-borne diseases? As we all know, it's who you know. Patricia Williams says, so I guess that goes well with our new name, Pure Grenada. Okay. Don't get it, but okay. Lydia James is saying good morning from a cold Canada. Oh, Lydia, Grenada awaits. John Nozinek says, Patricia, if only Grenada was pure. Margaret Francis says, agreed with the editorial. Trading Grenada's spice plans is a non-starter. Full stop. You tell 'em, Mags. Put your foot down, girl. Okay, there you have it. So we're off and running on this Monday morning under beautiful sunny skies here, man. I enjoy sitting in this chair, but to tell you the honest truth, I can't wait to get through this morning and go sit on the balcony out there and just enjoy it. Just enjoy it. It is so beautiful. Donna Joseph is saying good morning from the cold north. Hey, I thought you were in Grenada, Donna Joseph. Have you deserted us? She's gone somewhere up north. Folks, break time, and then we'll come on back with the National Report.
Christmas safety tips. Always unplug Christmas tree lights before leaving home or going to sleep. Check your tree lights and outdoor lights for damage each year before you use them. Discard lights with frayed wires, loose connections, and cracked sockets. Do not overload your wall outlets or extension cords. Remind children never to touch lights or outlets. Select lights appropriately. Never use indoor lights outside or vice versa. Happy holidays from Grenlec.
Juve chocolates, cocoa nibs, and cocoa balls from Diamond Estate Grenada are now available at Amazon.com, Amazon.ca, Amazon.co.uk, and GrenadaMarket.com. Try the sensational touch of nutmeg and a touch of ginger chocolates, 75% dark and rich, 100% pure cocoa, and their 60% dark and sweet chocolate bars today. Amazon Prime members enjoy free shipping on these orders in the USA, Canada, and Europe. GrenadaMarket.com. When you can't come to the island, the products of the island will come to you.
With Grenada poised to record its 7th consecutive year of robust growth in 2019, Prime Minister and Minister for Finance, Dr. the Right Honourable Keith Mitchell, will present this country's 2020 budget on Wednesday, November 20th, outlining his government's plans to further drive the economy and spur investor confidence. Under the theme Towards Vision 2035, empowering our communities, growing our economy, protecting our environment, strengthening our institutions, Dr. Mitchell will lay out plans to forge ahead with a shared goal for the future, envisioned in the country's 2020 to 2035 National Sustainable Development Plan. The 2020 budget will be broadcast live on GIS Channel 22 and the GIS Facebook page. Beginning at 9 a.m., we will look at some of the government's major projects over the past year. From 9:30 a.m., there will be live commentary, and from 10 a.m., presentation of the 2020 fiscal package. Tune in to the Government Information Service and other stations for the live broadcast of the 2020 budget, Wednesday, November 20th, 2019.
Because your vehicle is a necessity, being roadworthy is critical. Hubbard's Motor Department introduces its new tire and battery sales and service outlet located at Building Supplies Compound in Grandans, close to the Sugar Mill Roundabout. Available are a wide range of competitively priced tires, maintenance-free batteries, oils and lubricants. Keeping in mind your busy schedule, this outlet is equipped to provide you with fast and reliable service. Simply drive in and you'll be delighted with your service experience. For more information, contact 440-2087. Hubbard's, quality service, affordable prices.
Why wish upon a star? For a bank is better by far. Whatever you're wishing for this Christmas, will give you low interest and no fuss.
Co-op Bank is making Christmas wishes come true. Fix up your home, treat your loved ones, and get everything on your Christmas list this year with our no-fuss loans. As we count down the 12 days to Christmas, you can win awesome prizes every day. Special terms and conditions apply.
Christmas wishes come true with Go Bank and you.
Welcome home.
Alrighty, folks. First of all, good morning, Joan Wellington. Thank you very much for joining us. And Kaylin Simon says, a cold spice greeting from a grey London. Ha ha ha, you ought to be here, Kaylin. And he or she says, anywhere there's spices, anywhere our spice will always follow. I guess she means anywhere there's spices, he or she will follow. And Patricia, hello Patricia, thank you very much for clarifying. She was referring to the giving away of our spices. She says here, no longer the land of spice. I hope not, Patricia, I hope not. Time will tell. Pilgrims, here comes your national report.
Government concludes negotiations with another union and staff associations for police and prison officers. We'll have details to this story and more in the national report. With the details to the news for Friday, November 15th, I am Rakisha St. Louis. Government's negotiating team has concluded negotiations with another trade union, as well as the staff associations which represent police and prison officers. The agreements with the Grenada Manual Maritime and Intellectual Workers Union, Police Gazetted Officers Association, Police Welfare Association, and Prison Officers Welfare Association were brokered during talks late Thursday and early Friday morning. The respective agreements will be signed on Monday. All public officers represented by the unions and staff associations which have concluded negotiations will benefit from annual increases of 4% for each of the years covered in the new collective labor agreement. The 12% increase over 3 years is the largest settlement for public sector employees in the last 20 years. The overall cost of the settlement is $43.5 million, which means government will have to undertake extensive reallocation to fund the agreed wage increases. Another union, the Bank and General Workers Union, will seek the approval of its membership before agreeing to the proposed increases. Agreement with the joint negotiating team from the Technical and Allied Workers Union and the Public Workers Union is still outstanding. The joint TAU PWU team is demanding increases of 5% for each of the 3 years. This would add $59.6 million to the government's wage bill, an amount which is not affordable or sustainable and which will breach the fiscal responsibility law. Additionally, effective January 2020, government is expected to meet the increase in NIS rates for all of its employees. The negotiating team awaits the recommendations of the Labour Commissioner, who is conciliating in the dispute. The negotiating team remains hopeful that there will be an amicable resolution. The Grenada Union of Teachers have already signed its collective labor agreement with the negotiating team following the conclusion of talks earlier this week. Construction of the polyclinic in St. John is said to be 6 months ahead of schedule. The sod for the facility was turned on October 26, 2018, after finalization of a grant to the tune of $6 million EC by the European Union. With quality health care of paramount importance to his government, Parliamentary Representative for St. John, Honorable Alvin Dabrio, says this is good news for the country.
At this time, they are 6 months ahead of schedule, so it seemed that we would be getting it a lot quicker, which would be very good. So right now, we're in the planning stage on all the facilities that would be in it, like the X-ray, mental health facilities. We're hoping that we will be able to do dialysis there also, and all other medical things that would be needed, so that if there is any emergency, at least you could be stabilized there before moving to the general hospital. And we also would be looking at having it run open 24 hours a day. So the staffing would be something that it's ongoing that we're looking into right now.
The polyclinic is the first of its kind in Grenada, and Mr. Dabrio says been constructed in his constituency. Residents of St. Patrick and St. Mark will find it easier to access primary health care.
I know we had cases where people on the way to the hospital, I remember a few years ago there was a teenager that died. She had an asthma attack, and when they got to Perseverance, they had the smoke, it was burning, and then that made it even worse, so she didn't make it. And whatever emergency you might be in, an accident, whatever, like minutes is crucial in emergencies. So if there is a center there in which you could go to get primary health, at a quick response time, then it would be very, very beneficial for us on the Western Corridor. And that's St. John's, St. Mark, and St. Patrick.
The polyclinic is being constructed by a Chinese Caribbean construction group. The group employed a number of locals from the community and surrounding areas to ensure an adequate labor force that will realize a completion date that will be satisfactory to all stakeholders. This is the National Report. More news after the break.
Did you join the public service on or after February 22nd, 1985 and have since retired? This might be important to you. Government understands that the NIS pension may be insufficient to take care of your needs. So, while it awaits the court's ruling on the matter of pension for public officers, government has taken action to protect your quality of life so that you can take care of your needs in the meantime. Persons who joined the public service on or after February 22nd, 1985 and serve continuously in an established position for a minimum 26 years and 8 months and retired at age 60 may be eligible to receive an advance payment, which when combined with NIS represents 70% of their last salary. For more information, call or visit the Pension Secretariat in the Department of Public Administration, Ministerial Complex, 440-3767.
Welcome back. 16 senior residents of St. Andrew Northeast are now more computer savvy following 3 weeks of intense training by the National Telecommunications Regulatory Commission, NTRC. The intergenerational boot camp was held in the constituency following the opening of the first ICT center in Gut. The program is aligned with the Americas Regional ITU's initiative, which is held annually to build capacity in ICT and promote more investments in the area. For Grenada, the just concluded boot camp is in keeping with the government's 5-year vision for digital transformation and inclusion. The training was developed to promote ICT awareness and literacy among mature adults. It was also geared towards encouraging adults to bridge the generational gaps in ICT.
This program is also aligned with the ITU initiative Accessible Americas, which is held every year as part of the global initiative to ensure everyone can access ICTs. At these sessions, the mature adults are identified among the priority groups that should be targeted to ensure access to ICTs. Access is not just about the devices at your fingertips, but also about the knowledge to be able to utilize them, which is clearly what we were able to achieve with this program. Countries across the Americas were encouraged to execute initiatives which targeted the priority group, persons with disabilities, the elderly, indigenous, women, and girls, which, as we know, are traditionally the ones that are left behind.
That was NTRC Coordinator Lawrence Samuel. According to Samuel, there are many benefits in investing in ICT.
The mature adults cannot be left behind. Getting mature adults online will help them improve interpersonal communication and relationships with their family, friends, and loved ones, whether they're near or they're far. We have FaceTime and all sorts of stuff now where we can be in Grenada and be talking to our family, and we're seeing them wherever they are. In my view, having run this program is testimony to our commitment to promoting and realizing digital inclusion.
The participants were presented with their certificates on Thursday. Finally, in the news, students from the T.A. Marisha Community College were reminded of how they can explore their gifts and abilities to help shape their career path. The Gifted to Succeed Youth Symposium, the second of its kind, initiated by the Ministry of Youth, aims to inform the nation's youth about the importance of taking their education seriously. Minister for Youth, Sports, Culture and the Arts, Senator Norland Cox, in his engagement with the youth, re-emphasized that there is something important in challenges.
Sometimes when opportunities meet me, I always ask myself, is this really for me? Why am I being given this challenge, this opportunity? It's something that could frighten you. Opportunities could frighten you. Because you see, sometimes things happen, and they happen for a reason. And oftentimes, there is this philosophy that I go by. Whatever I'm faced with today is preparing me for something in the future that I don't know about. So whatever hardship that you are going through, perceived hardship, whatever challenge, is preparing you for something that you do not know what is coming. It's only until then, when it comes, you realize, I could deal with that, I used to deal with that, so I could deal with that. So that is something that you must be very mindful about.
Anything is possible.
Remember to always put things in perspective. Once you do that, you can do anything you want to do. You can be anywhere you want to be at any point in time you choose to be. Always put things in perspective. Yeah. Don't think that you can do what I'm doing. Don't think that you can do it. You might be able to do it better than I. So do not limit yourself. Do not ever limit yourself at any point in time.
Chair of the TAMCC Social Sciences Department, Claude Douglas, encouraged the youth to make use of the given opportunity.
Where am I coming from? And this is the one that gets me in TAMCC here. Because most of you, I know for a fact, come from poor parental background. And you have been given an opportunity to make better. And some of you are wasting it. I must tell you that. Some of you are wasting it. As I said before, education was my lifeline. And education will be your lifeline too. Don't waste this opportunity.
Soca artist Kelson O'Geist offered words of encouragement to the students.
Without confidence in yourself, you're twice defeated in the race of life. With confidence, you already won since before you start. So to be gifted, to be successful, you need to have confidence in yourself. You need to believe in yourself. You need to tell yourself that I can do it. And if you put your mind to it, you will achieve it. And that's what happened.
That story just ended the national report for today, Friday, November 15th. Let's recap the top story. Government concludes negotiations with another union and staff associations for police and prison officers. On behalf of the entire news team here at the Government Information Service, I am Rikisha St. Louis saying thank you for joining us. Until next time.
Alrighty, folks, there you have it. That was Friday's edition of the National Report from the Government Information Service. Now, just before I get to your reactions to this morning's newscast, I just want to digress a little bit here. Talking about the importation of the livestock from St. Vincent, there are a couple of responses here. First of all, Laurie Bridgman says, I think it's a good thing for Caribbean islands to trade their livestock and agricultural products. I believe it's a step in the right direction. And also goes on to ask, what else do we have to trade? Okay, now let's get to your reactions to this morning's national report. John says, read the polyclinic. Will it be better equipped than the main hospital? Good question, time will tell. Ryan Jabon, who, by the way, happens to be a nurse out there in Orlando, Florida. I think a retired nurse is what I should say now. He says, interesting, polyhealth clinic in St. John's. Wonder if healthcare personnel staffing will be a problem. Again, Ryan, time will tell. I just couldn't give you an answer to that right now. Ernesto says, I want to direct my attention to the sister isles of Petit Martinique. Petit Martinique is one island, Ernesto. He says, he calls it the Forgotten Island. He says, I'm hoping to get the attention of the senator. I understand there is 1, no fire truck in case of fire. 2, the main road is in horrible state. 3, no gas station for motorists. 4, no bank or ATM machines for money transactions. And a large decrease in tourist visitors. Do you have any evidence to prove that, Ernesto? If you do, I would appreciate it if you could drop me a line. Madam Senator, I'm calling on you to please do the job you've been elected to do. John says, Hillsborough City, capital, if you will, of Carriacou, is on lockdown this morning due to the court hearings for the huge drug bust. Thanks for giving us that little heads up there, Jean. Ryan says animal husbandry must increase in Grenada. Yes. Okay, folks. Now. Here we go. Monday morning. You're not going to see 4 ladies this morning. You're going to see 3. I was expecting 4, but we'll settle for 3, okay? As always, we've got Laurel Bain, who is an economist, former economist with the ECCB. She's at the bottom left of your screen. And to her left is her sister, Gemma Bain Thomas, former cabinet secretary. Janice is monitoring Facebook this morning, so we're not seeing her face. However, they have brought along a new face this morning, and I am pretty excited. Just can't wait to hear what this lady has to say. Her name is Dr. Juliet Melville, and I'm going to ask you, Laurel, to do an introduction to Dr. Melville.
Thank you, George, and good day. Welcome to Fiscal. We have Dr. Juliet Melville with us this morning, along with Mrs. Gemma Bain Thomas. Dr. Juliet Melville is a development economist with over 20 years of experience. She provided support technical advice to the government of Trinidad and Tobago on issues relating to cushioning the effects of structural adjustment programs.
Okay, hold on a sec, Laurel. We're getting some feedback from somebody up there. Somebody has a speaker turned up, so it's feeding back into somebody's microphone. So if anybody has a speaker turned up, just turn it down a little bit for me, please. Go ahead, Laurel. See, there we're hearing it. We're hearing it. Okay. Somebody has a speaker or a headset turned up.
It's okay now?
Yeah, let's try.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Laura. Let's see.
Okay. Yes. She has worked at the Caribbean Development Bank as a chief economist and acting director of economics. And during that period at the bank, she worked with development and international agencies on issues relating to the development of the financial sector and other development issues relating to the economy and social issues. In particular, she had input into the development of poverty assessment surveys and was instrumental in developing policy-based loans after the economic and financial crisis. Dr. Melville also served as a country economist for Grenada and is quite familiar with Grenada. So she joins us this morning on Fiscal Alert as we continue to share knowledge and experience. This morning, we're focusing on the issue of growth and development. And to go forward on the issue, I will turn over to Dr. Juliet Melville for she to lead the discussion.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Thanks for having me on your program to discuss the topic of growth versus development.
Doctor, just hold on a minute. Doctor?
I'm still back.
Doctor, just hold on a minute because I'm still hearing that feedback that's coming from somebody. I'm not sure which one of you, but are you hearing anything other than my voice when you speak, Doctor?
I'm hearing your voice, yes.
But you're not hearing...
But I'm also hearing some additional noise.
Yeah, there's some audio. There's some audio leaking in somewhere there. Let's try again. Go ahead.
Dr. Melville.
Yes, thank you, Laurel. I want to begin a conversation about growth and development. And I want to start by explaining what we mean by growth and how this is measured before we get into a discussion about development. We can start by asking, what is the purpose of economic policy? Over the last few weeks, Fiscal Alert has looked at the issues surrounding fiscal policy and effective fiscal management. We saw that there is concern with ensuring government expenditure does not outpace its revenue, thus leading to excessive debt. Hence, the focus on generating fiscal surpluses, reducing the debt burden, maintaining growth of spending in line with GDP growth, etc. But we may well ask, to what end? While these are important objectives, they are not end in themselves. The ultimate objective of economic management, including fiscal management, should be to enhance the country's development prospects. The ultimate goal of economic policy should be to increase the welfare of the society and improve the standard of living for all, especially the most vulnerable. I don't think anybody can disagree with this. We are interested in economic performance because this is closely correlated with welfare. But note, I am not saying that growth is equal to welfare. One may say that it is a necessary but not sufficient factor for overall welfare improvement that we wish to see.
And Juliet here, the Grenada economy has experienced growth over the years. Since 2013, there has been steady growth. And in particular, in 2017 and 2018, based on the information derived from the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank website, we have recorded growth of 4.4% in 2017 and 4.1% in 2018. So in terms of economic performance, yes, the economy has been experiencing steady growth.
Yes, Laurel, but that is, as I will explain, is only one dimension of economic performance. When we talk about economic performance, we normally take this to mean how well the economy is or is not doing. We are speaking about the health of the economy. We gauge economic performance by looking at a variety of indicators or vital signs, such as you just said, GDP, growth rate, unemployment, employment, the general price level, fiscal performance, as you have discussed in the past few weeks, balance of payments, etc., the performance of key productive sectors, etc. But the indicator we give preeminence to in measuring economic performance is the gross domestic product, or what we refer to as GDP. Because by monitoring this indicator, we can make statements about whether the economy is growing or not, or whether it is in recession. Growth of the economy or the growth of GDP is inextricably linked to many of the other indicators of economic performance, such as employment, income, fiscal performance, as well as welfare. So what is GDP? And what does it tell us, and what it doesn't tell us? Gross domestic product is the monetary value of all final goods and services produced in an economy in a given period of time, usually a year. It tells us about the level of economic activity taking place in an economy. That is about the size of the economy. It is compared from period to see if it is increasing or if it is decreasing. If GDP increases, this is referred to as positive growth. So the figures that Laurel just presented indicated to us that over the last few years, Grenada has been experiencing GDP growth. Growth is seen as a good thing because it is usually associated with increased income, employment, increased government revenue, more foreign exchange earning, etc. Whilst decreases in GDP or negative growth is associated with rising unemployment, falling incomes.
Juliet, in terms of...
Yes, Laurel?
Yeah. Juliet, you mentioned also in terms of GDP, it tells us the size of the economies. And just for to insert here, that yes, we use the GDP to compare the size of the economy. So for Grenada, there is a GDP of 3 billion. And this could be compared to, say, St. Lucia, that has a GDP of approximately 5 billion, and Antigua and Barbuda, that has a GDP of approximately 4 billion. So these two economies are bigger than Grenada. But in terms of GDP also, we could say Grenada has a larger or bigger GDP than, say, Dominica, which has a GDP of 1.4 billion, and, say, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, that has a GDP of approximately 2.1 billion. So it is used also to compare size of economy.
Yes, that is correct. And whilst the GDP tells us about the volume of economic activity or the size of the economy, it does not give the full picture. Other things being equal, we would expect a larger country to have a larger output of goods and services. Therefore, you would also expect it to have a larger GDP. So comparing countries simply on the basis of GDP is not really useful. To take account of population size, the different population size, GDP is adjusted for population to derive another indicator, which we call per capita GDP or GDP per person. Conceptually, this takes the total value of goods and services that are produced and we divide it among the total population. And this gives a better picture of what is happening, GDP per person. And it is this figure, per capita GDP, that is used to rank countries.
So GDP, Juliet, if we include the per capita now, we might get a different picture.
A different picture, yes, correct.
So St. Lucia has the highest GDP. But in terms of per capita, its per capita is almost similar, of about 11,000 US per person, is almost similar to Grenada. And Antigua and Barbuda and St. Kitts and Nevis, both at per capita at approximately 15,000 US, have higher per capita income than Grenada and St. Lucia. So the per capita now, because of the population, gives you a different picture compared to the gross domestic product.
Yes, Laurel, but that is what makes sense, the per capita GDP, because as I said, the GDP, you would expect the size of your economy to vary directly with the size of your population, other things being equal. You have to produce more goods and services to satisfy the needs of the population. So the correct approach is really in the comparing countries is to adjust for population size. So you look at your per capita GDP. So when you hear the different agencies talking about the rank of countries, it is per capita GDP they are looking at.
And Laurel and Juliet,
yes.
John on Facebook, he is saying GDP. We can only go by the dubious figures given out, and we have to believe these. He's asking it as a question. Do we have to believe the figures?
We will say, we'll get to that in a while. We don't have to believe the figures, but the veracity of the figures depend on how good your method, the method used for compiling or collating the data on GDP. And there are a number of challenges with compilation, which we will talk to in a bit. But we're assuming that once we have all the information, your GDP should give you a fairly good idea of what is going on with some reservation. GDP can be viewed from different angles, from 3 different angles, because they give you different insights into what is happening in the economy. First, we can look at GDP in terms of what is being produced. Example, you look sector by sector, what output is being produced. For example, your agricultural sector, your tourism sector, your construction, mining, etc. And you add up what do these sectors produce. This is what we refer to as the output or the product approach. The other approach we can use is by looking at the stream of income payments associated with producing the various outputs. You pay wages, you have to pay interest, you have to pay rent, you earn profits. And this tells us about the income, who gets the income from the production. And finally, we can look at what is referred to as the expenditure approach. And this looks at how the outputs that are produced are utilized in the country. What goes to domestic consumption, what goes to investment, what is taken by the government, and what goes to net export. Net export here meaning what we send abroad, as well as in producing a number of our output, we have a significant import content. And we have to take those out in order to see what is produced domestically. Each of the angles give a different insight into the working of the economy. For example, as I said, your sector by sector tells you about output that is being produced by the sector. The income approach tells you about distribution of income between labor and other factors. And then finally, your expenditure approach tells you what goes to household, what output goes to businesses, what goes to government, what goes to foreigners.
And Juliet, if I could anchor John's question here, because we have 3 approaches to measuring our gross domestic product. And if the 3 approaches are calculated independently, we should get similar outcomes or estimation of our gross domestic product. But because of the data limitation, the 3 approaches are not calculated independently. In the Eastern Caribbean, we focus on the output approach, where we aggregate the output from each of the sectors. And there are challenges because the accuracy of the data depends on the accuracy of the GDP depends on the accuracy of the data use, the comprehensiveness of the data, and the representative nature of the sample in terms of the GDP. And I could give an example to illustrate. So in Grenada, like most of the other Eastern Caribbean countries, agriculture is a critical sector. And we need to obtain the gross domestic output from the agricultural sector. In this regard, we cannot add everyone who is producing agriculture. So we have a sample. In the 1990s, the sample was very easy because we had, in Grenada, referring to Grenada, we had the commodity goods, banana, cocoa, nutmeg for our traditional crops. And then we had marketing board for our fresh fruits and vegetables. However, as we entered into the 2000s, the marketing board was no longer a prominent source of the fruit and vegetable output. And hence, if you continue to use that in the sample, you were not properly estimating the GDP. And here I encourage, in terms of estimating the GDP, which is an estimate, there should be dialogue between the compilers, the users of the GDP and the policymakers, and the suppliers of the data. And if I could mention also, in terms of the expenditure approach to the GDP, we have data readily available on government expenditure to the fiscal account. We have data on exports and imports. However, there is a challenge in obtaining data on private consumption, private investment. So the GDP is an estimate, is the best estimate you can derive at any point in time of your GDP, but there must be done with care, because it depends on the accuracy of the data, the comprehensiveness of the data, and where samples are used, the representative nature of the sample being used.
And Laurel, Ryan on Facebook is asking what GDP is optimal for Grenada. And he's saying he agreed with Dr. Juliet that GDP can be misleading. Don't you think Grenada poverty and one-term borrowing debilitated the economy? So is there a optimal GDP for Grenada, Laura?
I would not put it as an optimal GDP. There is a forecasted GDP, and that is based on the medium-term fiscal framework at a focus of GDP of 4%. There have been discussions on what is the optimal, not GDP, but growth rate. In the 1990s, we discussed the use of a 6% growth rate in terms of that should be the targeted growth rate. By the 1980s, we discussed the possibility of a 5% targeted growth rate. So there have been discussions on a targeted growth rate that would allow to reduce unemployment and for steady growth in the economy. And in the Grenada case, they have forecasted a 4% growth rate.
Yes.
In terms of the debt, go ahead.
Yes, I just want to say that the concept of an optimal level of GDP doesn't make much economic sense. The focus, because what you're saying, you'll be putting a cap on or a floor on what level of economic activity you can pursue. What, as you rightly said, what is normally looked at is growth rate. And this is mainly in the context of ensuring that you absorb people coming into the labor force, that you're able to service your debt, etc., etc. So it's really the growth rate that is key, and that the various programs tend to set targets for, but not the absolute level of GDP per se. I would also like to say here that we tend to make a distinction between what we call nominal GDP and real GDP. Nominal GDP is simply the value of output produced that are produced in current prices, what they cost now to produce them. So that your GDP can change simply because prices are changing. In economics, we are interested in real changes, quantity changes. And therefore, we tend to adjust nominal GDP to eliminate the price effect, to focus on simply quantity changes. And this is referred to as real GDP. And when we are talking about growth rates, this is what we tend to focus on, what is happening to quantities. So we can just say in summary that GDP simply purports to measure the value of goods and services produced in an economy. It doesn't purport to do anything more than that. It measures the total output of goods and services produced.
And Juliet,
what are the limitations?
If I could insert here in terms of the GDP, It measures the value of goods and services produced. It does not say who produced it and how it is produced.
Yes.
So it is just purely the measure of the goods and services produced in the economy, giving you what we could call the best estimates. And different agencies could look at the economy and come up with different estimates as to the value of goods and services produced. And as I said, it depends on the data utilized, the comprehensiveness of the data, and the representative nature of the sample.
Yes.
Okay, and Laurel and Juliet, John is saying that he believes in the value of the dollar in his pocket. I am not sure what he means, but he believes in the value of the dollar in his pocket.
And I will tell John that the value of the dollar in his pocket is very good, but the real value depends on how much goods and services the dollar in his pocket can buy.
Yes. And that's another adjustment we also make to GDP. But we're not going to discuss that this week. What I would want to just focus on is the limitations of GDP as a measure of growth and of welfare. The first thing we note, as Laurel said, it's an estimate. And that estimate, you collect the information from official data. So to the extent that you have activities that is not captured in official data, your GDP understates such activities. So for example, you have your informal sector, you have the illegal or black market activities, you have volunteer work, you have work taking place in the home, or what we call the care economy. These are all activities that are productive. They contribute income, or they save people having to spend, but they are not captured in your GDP. So to the extent that informal activities, illegal activities, household activities are a significant part of the economy, your GDP underestimates the true level of economic activity. Secondly, your GDP does not tell us how much of the income that is generated remains with nationals, remains in the country. So for example, your GDP, it doesn't say what the share goes to foreigners, what share goes to your domestic residents. A better measure we use is what is called gross national income. And here we adjust the GDP to take account of money that we have to send abroad for who own the output to compensate those who really own the output. And we add anything that we may earn abroad from having assets abroad. So your GDP, where you have significant foreign investment in your economy, your GDP can be reduced significantly when you adjust it for income that is sent abroad. In many of these small Caribbean countries and other developing countries where you have significant foreign investment, we would expect our GDP to be higher than our gross national income. So what remains with the economy is a much lower figure than what your GDP tells you.
If I may intervene at this time, George, as we proceed, I know our time is coming down. Yes. There are a number of comments addressed to Dr. Melville on the Facebook. Do I have time to ask the questions or read the comments?
I'll tell you what, Gemma, you can go ahead and ask one of those questions and then make a note of them so that when Dr. Melville returns, we can have her pursue some of the questions that were not answered today, because I also have a comment I want to make to Dr. Melville. So go ahead with your question, Gemma.
Okay. So John is asking, how or can the people access the data to check for themselves? And he wants to know whether the Freedom of Information Act will let us access this data.
I could just come.
Yes, go ahead, Lauren.
I could just come in here, John, on the data. Data on our gross domestic product Comprehensive data for all the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union could be found on the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank website. And as I mentioned data here, I must put in here that at the last session, George indicated that I could check to see if the debt data that is available and debt information, total public sector debt as of June 2019 is available on the ECB website, and total public sector debt as of March 2019 is available on the government website, and the total public sector debt estimated at $2 billion. And that is referred to the data. So we can check the website for such information.
Thank you
Yes,
very
one
much,
of
Laura.
the ways that you can get data, including the CDB. The government has a very good website that it publishes its data. You have the World Bank, you have the IMF data sources. So GDP is one of the more readily available economic indicators. And that is why I think it is used so often to gauge economic performance.
Okay.
Okay, Ryan is asking what indicates prosperity in our society? In essence, is growth development?
Ryan is very hasty to get to the real meat of the matter, is growth development. No, growth is not development. We wouldn't have time to discuss it today, but what we can say, growth is a necessary condition for development. And we can also note that the predominant focus in the last 20 years or so has been on growth because of the theory of the trickle-down effect, where it is posited that if you have growth, eventually some of that will trickle down to the bottom and everybody will benefit. What we have seen is that the trickle-down effect does not work, that there are other things you must do, that growth is not the equivalent to welfare. You can have significant increases in your gross domestic product, but it does not tell us about how that output is distributed, how the income from that is distributed. As I indicated earlier, one way in which we lost some of that income is through having to remit some of the income to the owners, the foreign owners of the factors of production. Additionally, internally, the GDP by itself does not tell us of how the income that is generated is distributed domestically among the various participants in the economy, among labor, between capital, between labor, between your professional classes and those at the bottom. It doesn't tell us anything about poverty levels. It doesn't tell us about access to basic services. It does not tell us about the most vulnerable. It does not tell us about whether people are becoming more resilient over time and whether they can adjust to changes in the environment and in the international economy. So no, growth and development are not the same thing.
Okay.
So maybe we can entertain George's comment at this time.
Yeah, I want to direct this specifically to Dr. Melville. Doc, first of all, I am not an economist or an accountant by any stretch of the imagination. And therefore, I really appreciated your presentation this morning. As I sat here listening to you, I couldn't help but wonder, I would imagine that you've been monitoring Grenada's economic development over the years simply by virtue of the work that you do. So you know what's going on here, okay? Doc, there seems to be a major disconnect between what is being presented, the picture of Grenada's economy. You listen to what's being painted, you get the impression that we have the best economy in the Caribbean. But Doc, if you were to take a walk through the streets of St. George with me later on this morning, you get a totally different picture. People are hurting, Doc. We're hurting. And so as I listened to you, I could not help but wonder if what I'm hearing here this morning does not confirm that there is, in fact, a disconnect between what were presented and reality. At no point, and I have to specify this, at no point have I heard you refute the figures that we're being presented with, or the climate that we're being presented with. No point have I heard you shoot that down. But I'm just asking you, based on the way you presented things this morning, ma'am, could you be confirming that, yes, there is a disconnect between what we hear and reality?
Thanks for your question, George, and your observation. I would first say that Grenada claim that it is doing the best in the Caribbean, I mean, is not unique to Grenada. I think that is something that all the Caribbean countries like to say. We compare ourselves with each other all the time and make these claims. I think what is the important message that I am bringing to you today and to the listening audience is that we need to go beyond GDP, beyond simply talking about we are meeting our IMF targets and we are meeting our debt targets and we are having GDP growth of 4% or 5%. At the end of the day, what is the purpose of achieving all of these targets? So yes, you may be achieving the targets, and that from that point of view, you are doing well as being assessed by the IMF and whoever else sets the target. But at the end of the day, what is the ultimate end? Why are we doing this thing? And how is it impacting people's lives? So what you're saying for Grenada is nothing that I am not hearing in Barbados and in other places and as Chile and marching up and down the place. Because there is a can have your economic indicator or one dimension of it, which is focusing on the growth and target, really looking at how is it impacting, how is it impacting people's lives, how is it impacting how people are living their lives. As I said before, just focusing on growth, which focuses on material output, does not consider overall well-being. And what I'm hearing you saying is that the overall well-being is lagging. It does not tell us about poverty levels, the quality of health, education, housing, citizen security, freedom of expression, etc., etc. These are things that you need to look at other indicators, other dimensions, in order to make an assessment. And if we go by what is happening recently with the rise in protests in the Caribbean, in Latin America, well, not so much the Caribbean, Latin America, in Middle East, in Hong Kong, you can trace it back to the growing feeling that the people at the bottom and at the middle are not benefiting as much as they should from economic activity. They're feeling left behind. They're feeling that they are bearing the brunt of adjustment. And when things are improving, they are not reaping the benefits sufficiently. So the trickle-down effect is not yielding the social and economic conditions that could benefit everyone. So the main takeaway from today's conversation is that growth is not enough. So simply talking about growth is not painting a full picture of what is happening. You need to go beyond it. And I would challenge our listeners to post their thoughts on what is development. What do they think that development should entail? Because I don't think there's a consensus on what development is, but I think people have some idea of what is a minimum acceptable level of standard of living and certain minimum access to certain services that are considered essential that you should have. And that is what the focus needs to be on. What is development?
Okay, Doc.
Complete, Juliet.
Doc, thank you
Yes,
very,
sir.
thank you very, George. Thank you very much, Doc. Thank you very much. Doc, my takeaway from this program today is that, yes, I know that Grenada is not unique in regard to what we're talking about this morning. However, Doc, essentially what I've heard being said here this morning is be on guard, because not everything that you hear is reality. That is my personal takeaway. Thank you so much for bringing it across in a way that a dodo like me could understand. Thank you very much. And I think a lot of our viewers share that.
Thank you, Juliet, too, and join us next week when we will discuss the concept of development during our next session. Because
there's a little
knowledge
note
is power.
There's a note, sorry, Laura, but there's a note that came in here that I just have to share with you. Somebody named Renewed Purpose says, good morning, George and guests. My hats go off to these sensible and educated ladies on your program. I am blessed to have been able to tune in to this program today. Ladies, that's a feather in your caps. Thank you so much. I want to echo those sentiments.
Right.
Thank you, Renewed Purpose, and thank you all the viewers.
Yes, and just we ask to join us next week on the issue of development. And because we believe knowledge is power and experience is the greatest teacher. Thank you and have a good day.
With Grenada poised to record its 7th consecutive year of robust growth in 2019, Prime Minister and Minister for Finance, Dr. the Right Honourable Keith Mitchell, will present this country's 2020 budget on Wednesday, November 20th, outlining his government's plans to further drive the economy and spur investor confidence. Under the theme Towards Vision 2035, empowering our communities, growing our economy, protecting our environment, strengthening our institutions, Dr. Mitchell will lay out plans to forge ahead with a shared goal for the future, envisioned in the country's 2020 to 2035 National Sustainable Development Plan. The 2020 budget will be broadcast live on GIS Channel 22 and the GIS Facebook page. Beginning at 9 a.m., we will look at some of the government's major projects over the past year. From 9:30 a.m., there will be live commentary, and from 10 a.m., presentation of the 2020 fiscal package. Tune in to the Government Information Service and other stations for the live broadcast of the 2020 budget, Wednesday, November 20th, 2019.
Alec, we're starting work on the house soon, and I'll need your help.
Sure. What do you need?
I got a service application checklist from Grenlec's website.
This looks easy.
It is. We need a new service.
That's option A.
So wherever there's an A, that's something we must do in order to get the service.
So the other things without an A don't apply?
Exactly. The checklist shows us what documents to bring, the fees, and how soon we'll get the service.
So that you realize for all services, we must complete the right application form, have a valid photo ID, and a certificate from the electrical inspector?
That's right. The electrician will help us apply to the ministry for a certificate of inspection. So we'll use the checklist to get everything we need before going to Grenlec. This will make the process smooth and save lots of time.
Okay, might as well get started.
Grenlec, energizing our Grenada.
Can I have a chicken lunch, please? Large.
Real nice today.
Mm-mm. I don't want that.
But you just asked for a chicken lunch.
I don't have problem with the lunch. Afraid the container.
What is the problem with it?
These styrofoam containers, they don't good for the environment. They shorten with life.
What foolishness you telling me? So what you want me to use?
Put me food in this. Where you get that? At the food fair, where you could get all biodegradable food boxes and disposable food supplies like cups, plates, anything you could think about. Name it, it's there. And they don't harm the environment. Food fair, taking the lead in cleaning up and protecting the environment. Hey, like you take me advice, you get in your biodegradable food supplies.
Well, girl, I supporting who's supporting the environment. That is why I shop in at food fair.
Food fair, where you can fill your baskets without emptying your pockets. Products distributed by Hubbard's agency, Kirani James Boulevard.
Alrighty, folks, just about time to pull the curtain down. A couple of notes here. Ryan says, ladies, keep it up. Economics is life. Ernesto is asking here, would they be discussing the budget also on Monday? I don't know. You know, I'm going to suggest that to them. I'm not even sure that they are aware of when the budget's going to be handed down. I think it's on Friday. But I will certainly send a note asking them to consider doing an analysis. I don't know if they're going to have enough time between Friday and Monday to do that analysis. So maybe the following week, I don't know. As long as it gets done. That's the important part. Margaret Francis says, good presentation as always. Ladies, bring Dr. Juliet back. She's something else, isn't she, Margaret? Yep. Congratulations, lady. Thank you very much for being with us this morning. Now, my dear friends, time to pull the curtain down. We're going to have to extend this program to an hour and a half. Yeah, I'm getting that feeling. Parting word from the Holy Scriptures comes to you today from Luke chapter 6, 32 to 36. If you love those who love you, what credit is that to you? Even sinners love those who love them. If you do good only to those who are good to you, what credit is that to you? Even sinners do that. And if you lend to those from whom you expect repayment, what credit is that to you? Even sinners lend to sinners, expecting to be repaid in full. But love your enemies, do good to them, and lend to them without expecting to get anything back. Then your reward will be great, and you will be children of the Most High, because He is kind to the ungrateful and the wicked. Be merciful, just as your Father is merciful. That reading from Luke chapter 6, verses 32 to 36. On that note, let's see here. Yeah, Margaret says here, I think the ad says budget is Wednesday. You could be right, Margaret. I'm terribly sorry. You could be right on that. Okay, I'm going to let them know. On that note, pilgrims, we're going to pull the curtain down. Thank you so much for joining us. Please forgive me for running over time. God bless you, and by His grace, we'll see you tomorrow.